Good morning, fans. Here I am making a video as requested heavily by you, my loyal fans. Today I'm trying to make gluten-free croissants. I myself am not gluten-free, but many people I love and care about are gluten-free. And I'm sick of making croissants and having them make a face. So that's why I'm doing this. So I am not following a recipe per se because I looked up a lot of gluten-free croissant recipes and I wasn't happy with them. So I'm sort of making up my own recipe. We'll see. This may be a bad idea. Whatever. It's a quarantine. I don't have much else going on. I think it'll be fine. I mean, we all know the most important part of any croissant is the butter. And this is going to have a lot of butter in it. So we don't need to worry about it. We're going to be fine. It's going to be delicious. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is combine my dry ingredients, which in this case is flour, sugar, and salt. Typically, you would use like a cup for cup replacement flour like this, but I only have a tiny bit of this. So I'm just going to combine these other two gluten-free flours and hope it works out. This project is doomed from the start. To make croissants, you want about 500 grams of flour. Oh, look at that. Only 84 grams of this one. Not helpful. This is oat flour, which I actually think will be very delicious. I think like an oaty croissant will be good. Ooh, this is not as much flour as I had hoped. All right, that's fine. That's about 350 total grams, so I only need 150. Is that right? Yeah, 150 more. I can do math. This is almond flour, which I also think is gonna be delicious. It's all gonna be fine. Everyone calm down. Stop freaking out. Okay. So now I've got all my flours equaling 500 grams. Now, the other thing I'm gonna do that's different about regular croissants is I'm gonna add some xanthan gum. And xanthan gum is something that is very useful in gluten-free baking. It's kind of like a binding agent. So I'm just gonna add 2 teaspoons of this. We'll see. Some of the recipes that I found online said definitely do this. Some of them said definitely don't do this. So, you know, you just never know what you're gonna get. So I'm adding the full 3 teaspoons, and to me that's like, is it gonna be enough? I don't know, we'll see. I like them very salted. It doesn't make them salty, it just makes them better. Okay, now sugar 3, plus a little extra. Who are we kidding? All right, mixing. Those are all mixed. I'm gonna set them to the side for now. The wet ingredients. So the wet ingredients for croissants is typically like milk and butter. There's butter even in the dough. And then some sort of sourdough starter. So obviously butter and milk, very much on the table. Sourdough starter, not on the table. If I had it my way, I would just include it and I would figure that the gluten-free people like wouldn't even know. The placebo would just take hold. But I don't want to get anyone sick. So I won't add it. So one of the things I'm gonna add instead of sourdough starter is an egg. An egg is on the table. An egg is wonderful in baked goods. Some croissant recipes, bad ones, but some ones do actually include an egg. So I'm gonna include an egg. Sometimes with gluten-free baking, you add eggs. Okay, so what you do for the milk part is we want about 300 grams of milk. And then you want to just slightly heat it. The temperature you're looking for here into temperatures is about 70 degrees. In some houses, that is room temperature. In our house, room temperature is about 55 degrees because Jacob insists. So anyway, I've got my little thermometer and I'm gonna know when it gets to 70 degrees and not overheat it like I did last time. So you're literally just taking some of the chill off, like it's already done. It was that fast. Yeast. Since we're not using sourdough starter, we need to use something to leaven the dough, so I'm gonna use this yeast. So this is active dry yeast. So for active dry yeast, you need to sort of proof it in a warm liquid to make sure that it's alive. So I'm doing that in this warm milk. And things are good, looking good. It has a lot of bubbles, which is usually a good sign that the yeast is alive and well. Okay, so that's just gonna sit. You need to let yeast hang out for a few minutes. And while that does that, we're gonna be preparing our stand mixer. I'm just gonna put it in the bottom, give it a whisk. There we go. This is my bowl of dry ingredients. I'm just gonna add the butter right in. One of my favorite croissant recipes that I'm sort of like loosely basing this off of says that the reason you want to put your butter in the dough as well as like in the butter, which will make more sense later, is so that they can slip and slide off of each other. And I thought that was really cute. Okay, so those butter cubes are coated. This warm milk is going in with the yeast. Dry ingredients going in as well. You just never know. Okay. And then you're gonna put it in stand mixer, dough hook, 3 minutes. This, you know, actually no, it kind of has a shape. It's kind of, the shape is kind of round. I think it's fine. I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes, but I think it's fine. I think part of the deal here is that it's kind of too wet. If there's one thing that the French love, it's when you change their recipes sort of on the fly. Okay, so I let it go for quite a bit longer, and it's now starting to kind of resemble the texture that I want. So it's like pretty like firm. It holds together quite well. When I touch it, it doesn't like come off on my hands. So that's all good. So now we're gonna just scrape it off into a big block here. This is like not totally square, but it's fine, it'll be fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my packet and put it in the fridge. So, the best part of croissant making, the butter packet. 262, we're gonna call it, that's fine. We're gonna slice them all into long, thin strips. So, about that thin. If you're looking for a health food, I don't know what to tell you, seek elsewhere. Don't make croissants. Okay, so now we're gonna take our packet, open it up, and layer all of these sort of tiles of butter into the packet. Okay, and then once we have our tiles, we'll just fold it back up. It's pretty soft and squishy, too soft and squishy. So I'm gonna pop it in the fridge for a couple of minutes just to firm up so that it holds its shape and doesn't sort of melt out the sides of the dough, which is what happens if your butter is too warm. Okay, this is the moment of truth, I feel. I have my dough from the fridge. I let it rest for a really long time. I don't know what's going to happen. It looks suspiciously wet and also suspiciously full of cracks, which leads me to believe it may not hold together in a shape. And we'll see if it allows me to do that. If it doesn't, this whole thing is over, because that's like the whole deal with croissants. You know, sort of rolling. So far, I'm gonna go with it's not terrible, but it's certainly not great. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it's working great. Can I move it? Ooh, it's real crumbly. It's real crumbly. I don't know. So I'm trying to roll it out to a rectangle that is 11 by 14 so that it's sizably bigger than the butter packet. Ooh, it just broke it. Just gonna add a lot of flour into rolling out. I can lift it, which is the positive side. Very correct. Look, I never thought this was gonna be stellar. Hopefully there's enough butter in it that it will taste good, and that's all you can ask for. 13 by 11. Pretty good, pretty close. Hopefully that's enough. I don't want to lift it up again, I'm too scared. Maybe with just a little more time, it'll come back together. It could definitely be crumblier, I can definitely say that. Picking it up doesn't look great though. Oh well, we'll see. So with your butter packet, you don't want it to be too malleable or too firm. It's a very tough line to walk. If it's too warm, it's gonna melt and ooze out the sides. If it's too cold, it's gonna break into pieces, and that's called a broken lamination, and it's bad. This butter, I believe, is at the right place. But there's no way to know until it's too late. I'm just sort of centering it. Oh boy, okay, here we go. So then it's there, that's fine. So I'm gonna fold this, oh no, it's already breaking. Oh God, it's a disaster. It'll be fine, maybe, I don't know. And I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna just sort of smush it so the whole butter packet is enclosed on all sides. This is not what it's supposed to look like, so we'll see how much that ends up being a problem. Okay. Now I'm just gonna roll it out. I'm trying to roll this out to 36 inches, so I'm gonna need to turn it. Okay, I was able to pick it up, a very positive sign. We're basically forcing that butter that's inside of this to roll out along with the dough, and then we're gonna fold it on top of itself. Not quite there. Part of gluten-free croissants is that you don't roll them out that long. I think it is part of it. There's two types of folds when you're making laminated dough. There's letter folds and book folds. I'm gonna do one of each, just to make it fun and complicated. So for a book fold, you fold the two sides in to meet one another. Not looking good, guys. And then you fold the whole thing in half like a book. Then you flour it more, turn it. Oh, it's so crumbly. I just don't know. Okay, so see how the butter is visible through the dough? That's bad. That's not what I wanted. So I'm just gonna stop rolling it and fold it. Oh no. And this is a letter fold where you just fold it like a letter. Okay. Things are not going as I had hoped. I'll be candid. So I'm just gonna flour all over. Hope that stops the butter from leaking out everywhere, and just refrigerate this for a really long time and hope that changes things, knowing full well that it won't. Okay, well, several hours have passed. I've spent every moment of those hours reflecting on what I did wrong and what I could have done better. And I've come to a couple of conclusions. Number one, I don't think that oat and almond flour was a good idea. I think I should have just gone to the damn store and gotten myself some King Arthur cup for cup flour. But I didn't, and now I have to live with that. And then the other thing too is that I think I didn't need the egg. I think had I just used good flour, I wouldn't have needed the egg and it wouldn't have made the dough so wet and strange. I think probably the third thing I did wrong is not following a recipe. I got cocky and I thought, I know how to make croissants, I'll make up my recipe, and God punished me for that. But you live and you learn. In any case, I've let my dough rest for several hours, and you know, in some ways it actually is looking pretty good. In other more important ways it looks really bad, but I'll take what I can get. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to come to room temperature, and then I'm going to start rolling it out into the actual croissant shapes, and then I'll proof it for a few hours, and then I'll bake it. Normally, you would really take your time with these steps and like rest it overnight and then proof them in the morning. But honestly, I want to just cut my losses and be done with this today, because I don't think at this point any more time can save a bad dough. It's gonna be great. Okay, so this is roughly at room temperature. I'm going to take my rolling pin and try to roll it out to roughly 12 by 13, but I'm just gonna get it as far as I can get it before it's cracked so much that it's not worth pursuing. So let's talk about this dough. One nice thing I can say about this dough is that if this were a piece of meat, this marbling would be fantastic and like exactly what I wanted. Now, it's not a piece of meat, it's croissant dough, but I feel like it's nice to shout out the good that you see. But I think what I'm just gonna do is just cut a lot of these crispy parts off. I'm gonna cut a lot of these edges off and just give myself the best chance with the dough that I have, rather than try to work with the whole thing. Because if you cut off all those ugly pieces, it actually doesn't look too bad. So maybe that means something. Just cut off your ugly parts and you won't look so ugly. Okay. That also gives me the opportunity to look at this dough up close and realize my lamination has totally broken. I don't know if that has anything to do with the gluten-free nature of this dough, or if I just messed up my lamination. I'm gonna choose to believe it has something to do with the gluten-free. So this helps you make even triangles. And I can now begin I got about 5 pretty well-shaped triangles out of that, and like, I have to say, I don't think they look good, but I also don't think they look terrible. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but those are actually well-laminated pieces of dough, and that I never in 1,000 years thought I would get. They keep their shape, which is way more than I was anticipating, given how crumbly they were when I was rolling it. I think had I actually let these fully rest overnight like I'm supposed to, they would be like really good. So good for me. So next step is to shape them into the croissant shapes, aka the crescent shape that we all know and love. Ooh, did I speak way too soon? Oh my gosh, the rolling is crumbling them to pieces. Ooh, I jinxed it big time. Let's hope that just stops happening. You know, let's hope that was a one-off. It wasn't a one-off at all. It's semi-worked. Some of them look better than others, to be sure. They really started to crumble when I rolled them, which I think has a lot to do with the oat and almond flour just not being the choice. And when you use, I mean, those are just ground up oats or almonds, so they're very crumbly. But if I had used like a really good cup for cup replacement flour, it wouldn't have been so ugly. But the lamination is actually good. The shape is good. I'm hoping that they don't come apart any more than they already are. Only time will tell on that front. But all in all, given how pessimistic I felt when I first took these out of the refrigerator, I'm happy. I don't look it, but I am. So proofing is a step that I usually do with gluten full croissants for like 3 hours. And I don't know if you need to proof gluten-free croissants. I don't know if like the proof is gluten related or just something that you do, but I'll give it a try. I figure, what's the harm? I'll probably realize the harm soon enough. Okay, now I'm just being obsessive. Okay, hours have passed. It is now night. Nothing has changed about these croissants. The proofing was absolutely not necessary, and I fear actually may have caused a problem, which is that they've had an opportunity to dry out, become more brittle, and worse. We soldier on. So I'm preheating my oven. I'm gonna make an egg wash so that at the very least they will be shiny on their outsides. Though, I mean, what do I know? Maybe they won't be. I think something I've learned is that I have a lot to learn. I'm just gonna brush it on. If you look at them from far away, they do look like croissants. If you look at them up close, they look like the flesh of a person who ate too many croissants and now has really marbled, fatty flesh. Appetizing? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what everyone likes. If you like that, make these. Putting them in the oven, walking away, hoping they don't burn. But at least if they burn, I can say, oh my God, they would have turned out so great if I hadn't burned them. Wow, I thought they were gonna turn out bad, but they turned out so good. I'm totally joking. That's a regular croissant that I made the other day. That didn't turn out great because it has gluten in it. These other ones, can't say the same. They certainly, I would say they mimic croissants. I would say the shape leaves something to be desired, but it's crescent shaped all the same. The lamination that I felt so great about didn't come to fruition in the slightest. And they're very, I would say wet. Maybe I need to cook them longer. Let's see how they taste. Honestly, not bad at all. They taste like butter and oats. What could be bad? So, all in all, would I pay for this? No. Would I eat this if offered to me? No. But the good news is, most people who are gluten-free, in my experience, it's been so long since they tasted anything resembling a pastry that they'll take whatever you give them and they'll like it. So, gluten-free people in my life, look forward to eating this.